Welcome back to Pursuit of Prey. I've been having some trouble with my Savage 110 Ultralite. It's been a great rifle, but what I found after doing some work on it is when I torqued the stock down to spec and lightened the trigger wouldn't reset. So rather than go ahead and go in and look for what the issue is, I decided to do the economical thing and purchase a new trigger. So in this case, I went with the Timney Trigger. Rifle Basics also makes one. This is actually my second ultralight, so I put the same trigger on another rifle I have and did a phenomenal job. So this one's a 280 Ackley. We're gonna go ahead and do the install, and at least my last one did take a little bit of work on it to get it to fit just right. So I'll walk you through all that if we need to. But before I do that, be sure and like and subscribe to my channel. If you enjoy this sort of content, a lot of hunting, outdoor, food-related material, backpacking, and other hunting-related things in there. So as we get started, unbox the trigger. It is model we're doing for a Savage Ultralite 638-16, and I went with the nickel-plated version. So it comes with a spring, a retention pin, a Allen wrench, and then the trigger itself. So it's not quite a drop-in, or at least my last one wasn't, but it's darn close. So first thing we're going to do here is go ahead and remove the stock. Check to confirm it's empty. That's how it's fired. No, it's not doing it all. But every once in a while you'll get that, and your accurate trigger will be stuck there. So remove the magazine, and we're going to go ahead and remove these bolts. So on my other one, I did do a stock replacement as well with a Mesa Precision. That one's a 6.5 Creedmoor, so it's got a short action. I've been exceptionally impressed with that stock and plan to do the same with this one when the new stock comes out for the long action. Also, as you can tell, I have a different bottom metal. So I called Savage, got a replacement part that is the metal bottom metal from just their 110. I found the magazine and the bottom metal on the 110 Ultralight to be subpar, and so this was a great replacement for it. Pretty easy job. I did have to do just a hair of grinding on it to make it fit right down here, but it didn't take much. It was simple. I'll do a video on that here, so be sure and check out my channel. And I'll show you a little more in detail what I did. So a trick here is to go ahead and put a plastic bag over the trigger while you're removing this retention pin. It does come with a second retention pin, but I'd rather not lose one if I don't have to. This way it won't spring off and go flying around the room. So take a flathead screwdriver, or something of that nature, and just work that off. This way if it goes anywhere, it'll end up in that bag and not on the other side of the room. So continuing to work on getting this pin off. There it goes. All right, and I'm gonna set that pin aside. So now that that's out, I have a block here. Set that underneath. Here's that pin. Oop. Just a little tap. There it comes. Now you want to make sure to remember what side the pin came from. So on this side it's coming right to left with the thick end on the right side. So I'm also going to set that aside. The trigger should pull right out, and you're going to see it's got a lot of grease and dirt and dust in there. So there's nothing wrong with these AccuTriggers, but I do think there's better options out there. So I have my Timney Trigger getting ready to put it in there. Before you do slide it in there, you're going to want to take this spring that comes with it, and this acts very similar way to the stock AccuTrigger. slide it back in the back there. And put it right in. So, taking that same pin as earlier, moving from right to left. Make it fit in there. Not always easy to line it up just perfect. Didn't quite have it. I'm going to turn that around the other way. There we go. Now I can see where that hole lines up. All right, so the pin's in. And in this case, even though it came with another one, I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall the factory clip. All right, so that's in there. So if you run it right now, we're not getting anything. Oh, there we go. A little bit heavy on the pull. So what we need to do is do the initial adjustments. So first thing you want to do is run the bolt. And then we're going to take the provided Allen wrench and sit it up here in the sear screw. So you're going to insert it into the sear screw, and you are going to set the sear engagement. So you are going to tighten the sear engagement screw until the trigger releases, and then once you find that point, you're going to back it out about 1/6 of a turn. So I'm going to tighten. It's in there pretty good. That's where it releases. So right up and down the 12 o'clock position for me. So I'm going to loosen 1/6. Now last one I did with this, yep, I'm having the same problem here. So it's not causing it to reset. So that 1/6 isn't quite enough. So put it back in there. It's going to be about 1/4 of a turn. And that is enough to reset it there. So still some pretty heavy pull, but it doesn't take much movement to actually set that off. Next thing you're going to want to do is adjust your pull weight. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and test the pull weight on this trigger as it is. So this is a Wheeler trigger pull scale, nothing fancy. I'll leave a link to the Amazon below. You can get it if you want, probably 20 bucks or so. So right now we're sitting at about 3 1/4 or so. Give her another go. Yep, pretty accurate at 3 1/4 though. I like to have it down 2 1/4, 2 1/2. So we are going to make some adjustments here. So we're going to take this rear screw, and as we loosen it, back it out, it should make it looser. Give it another go. too much difference there. Let's try some more. Ooh, that might be too loose. All right. That's 1.5. That's a bit too much. Right at 2. One and a half. So there are better, more accurate scales and better, more accurate operators out there. But this seems to get the job done for me. I'm gonna run it again. 2.5. 2.5. Okay, just over 2. And just over 2 again. So I'm gonna call that good for now. And I can always mess with it later. So the other thing we're gonna need to adjust is the safety. So here, until the safety doesn't work properly, can't move it forward or back. This is your safety set screw. So we're gonna loosen it. Oop. And getting a little more play with that safety. Still not there. There we go, now I can engage the safety. But even with safe on, it's not quite stopping it. So now this just takes some time playing around with it until you get it right to where it's your liking. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the sear screw a little bit. There we go, so safety's on. I'll just reset, that could be part of it. Back of that sear screw out. On, still too much pull. Sear screw out a hair more. Safety on. Still going. And we're just going to continue to work on it here. So it does take a while to get it to just the right spot. All right, so some trial and error got me, I think, to where I want to be. I'll run this trigger pull again. Ooh, that creeped it way up there. So back this off. So get back a little bit to where we want to be. 3.5. Three. There is instructions that come with this. They're good instructions, but a lot of trial and error, I think, is just what's needed to get it right where you want it. There we go, 2.5. Still a little heavy. 2¼ 2½, 2, yeah, it's all right in that same area. Boy, that's a clean break though. So that should be just about right. Again, test the safety. Doesn't go. Beat around a little bit. Nothing. Still run the bolt on half. And then no. Now if I hit from the back it will, but no discharge just from hitting there. If I drop it, it's pretty good. We're gonna call that good trigger adjustment from now. You can always come back and do more. Now, on my other one, I had to go through and file down the sear engagement pin. I had to do some inletting for the safety, for the trigger pull weight, and I had to file this down just a hair. So we're gonna put this in the stock, see if it works as is, and if not, we'll come back and do some more of that filing to it. So, back in the stock. Fitting in there good. So you want to get it up to, manual says 35 to 40 foot-pounds, inch pounds. Now to do that, you want to start and really work them up incrementally. So 10, 10, 20, 20 when you're doing your 2 action screws. So starting here at the top, making sure that lug is all the way back and it's sitting at this angle. Get it in there to 10. Then we're going to take this bottom action screw, throw it in there. Run it up to 10, and rather than go through the whole process and then find out it doesn't work, we go ahead and function check it one time. It does cycle. No, even at fire there, it's not resetting. So we're gonna have a little bit of work to do. Action. Now to hold everything in place, I'm gonna throw it on to here. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do, because it's not resetting, is file down top of this bolt release, because I think that hits against the stock in some places, and then I'm gonna file down this sear pin. So the sear engagement pin is what the company told me needs to be done. So I know that one for sure is a part of it. I've heard of people doing this and not needing to do any filing. This is my second one I've installed, and that hasn't seemed to be the case. So, get to it. You can use a Dremel for this. I like using a hand file. I feel it gives me a little more control. So we've done some filing there. Now on my other stock, I also had to take a little bit out of the stock. I'm not sure I'm gonna need to do that here. We're gonna do a hair more filing, get this down just a bit more, and then we're gonna give it another shot. All right, so keep those metal filings from getting in there. Hit it with a little bit of compressed air. And we'll try her again here, see if that was enough. Oh, again, letting that recoil lug sit back, starting at the top. Ready? Here it is. Let's see. so still no trigger reset. This is gonna take a little bit more work than I'd like. I'll keep working on it here and let you know what I found. All right, well, it looks like what's happening is this screw right there that controls your tension for your trigger pull is contacting the stock here. So we have two options. We can take a little bit out of the stock, or we can file this down. Rather than go extremes on one, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of both. So first thing we're gonna do is file down some of this thing. Now that goes in there pretty deep, so even if we take off a pretty significant chunk, we should still be able to get that Allen wrench in there. So keeping my trigger held tight. I might even go ahead and run it just to give it another point of contact. No, that didn't work. So I'm gonna file her down. That's about all I dare go there and still be able to get that Allen wrench inside. I'm gonna set that to the side and work on the stock a bit. So a Dremel probably is the easy solution, but in this case, I'm just gonna take this knife and rub off some of that. Now I had to do this some on my Mesa Precision stock that I've got on my other ultralight, but I found that it didn't have to take off as much. I think this is gonna be a little bit more. This one isn't moving at all. So I'm just gonna scrape. A Dremel would work great here. File would be kind of difficult to get in there, but just scraping seems to take off a nice thin layer all at the same time. There's plenty of lug in there for your screw to reconnect to, and you can always just throw a little bit of JB weld in there to hold it in place. That screw doesn't really do anything to hold your action to the stock. It just holds your trigger guard in there. So I will be replacing this stock at some point. I know Mesa Precision is working on a long action stock for theirs, which I've been pretty impressed with. My understanding Stocky Stocks makes a couple. I haven't used any of those. Then the other one I'm considering is the MDT 126. That looks like a great chassis stock that would really do this to be a good backcountry hunting rifle. It will fold up, used for sheep, get way back in there for mule deer with this 280 Ackley. The big problem with that, as I see it, is the colors and the materials and everything. Folding stock, it ends up coming out to about $1,600. So for a $1,500 gun, putting a $1,600 stock on it, at this point doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But it sure does look like a great one, so we'll see how it goes. All right, I'm just gonna keep working away here. You can get in there and see. So I'm just scraping a little bit at a time. It's coming off. A Dremel would work great here. All right, so I was able to get around to figuring out what it was. So there was a little bit that needed to come off of the back here where this screw was rubbing, but the main part really I need to file this down and make it flat, including just a hair off of this piece. And that is what Timney had told me you need to do. Now the other thing I need to do, and it may be because I went and replaced the stock plastic with the metal piece here, so the dimensions may have been a hair different. I needed to just file this down just a hair. So there was a little bump here and it was a little thicker. Took it down a bit, took off just a little bit of the corner of this bolt catch button, But now seems to work great. So we're gonna go ahead and go through and retorque everything up and do a function check. So get the stock back in there, making sure it's setting down. Place my bolt guard, excuse me, my trigger guard, and I'm going to grab my torque wrench. So I did go ahead and use an air tool. It made the grinding a little faster, but was not quite as precise. I would not recommend doing that unless you've got a steady hand. So set your torque wrench. I've been real impressed with these Wheeler torque wrenches. I'll leave a Amazon link down below. Just recently got them, worth having. Before it was all just on feel. You can tell there's definite difference. So setting that top at 10. Setting the bottom at 10, making sure that recoil lug in there is securely on the bottom of the stock. 10. Now I'm going to bump it up to about 20 or so. Making sure to evenly torque these as I go along. Up to 30. And finally, going to rest right about 40. Now the manual says between 40 and 45. Probably sitting here at 42 inch-pounds or so. Nice torque. And the torque. Got a function check. Oh, that's crisp. Safety, half safety. It's good. I'm gonna throw my screw back in the back. Now this doesn't do anything more than just hold the back of that trigger guard in. So I'm not worried that I took some material out of there. I did need to take some. I probably took more than I needed to, but still gets a nice firm thing, and you do not want to torque this down. This one just needs to be hand tight. Oh, that's crisp. All right, we're gonna pull gauge again. 1.5. 1.5. 1.5. So it's pretty consistent. So I'm gonna go with that for now. That may be a hair light. I might end up kicking that up to 2 later. But we got it working, and that's the important part. So I will be replacing this stock in the near future, either with that Hunter 26 from MDT or with the Mesa Precision Altitude. I've been very impressed with the Altitude on my Creedmoor version of this. As we go along, I'll make sure to make some videos of that so you can follow along and see what you need to do to get those installed. But again, this is the Timney Trigger install on the Savage 110 Ultralite. Thanks for watching. If you like my content here, I've got a whole bunch of videos coming to range of hunting and outdoor activities. Please like, subscribe, get that notification bell going.